You know, Germany is one of the leading startup ecosystem hubs and marked number 6 in the world in innovation. So today, or the session right now, is titled How to Cooperate with German Entrepreneurship. Our guests are the VP of AHK Korea, Felix Kalkowsky, Program Director of German Entrepreneurship Asia, Mabel Fu, and Pascal Kurzawa, founding member of Verso and Ecosystem Development. Please welcome them to the stage. Give them a heads up, please. Mr. Fu is the moderator for this session. You may begin as soon as you can.
So does this work? Yeah, awesome. Hello everyone, my name is Pascal. And first of all, before we start, super happy to be here today and also super excited to be moderating this chat. We are focusing today very much on the German startup ecosystem. Also, what are the similarities between the German and the Korean startup ecosystem, and then what are actually the opportunities for Korean companies actually to collaborate with German companies and, well, moving also over to Germany. So again, my name is Pascal. I'm a founder myself, an entrepreneur. You may also can tell already by my thick German accent, I'm German myself. And yeah, without further ado, I would also like to introduce or let the panelists introduce themselves. So why don't we start with Mabel? And Mabel, as you start introducing yourself, maybe it would be good if you can just mention, well, basically, who are you, what's your company doing, and then also what's your exposure to startups?
Sure, thanks. Hi everyone, my name is Mabel. I am the Program Director at German Entrepreneurship Asia. My main role in the company is to support startups to expand to Korea and Japan. And also recently, we've been supporting also Korean startups to expand to Germany as well as Southeast Asia. So we are a private company, however, we run a lot of government funded programs, and our biggest client is the German Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action, where we support German startups to scale globally to the US and also to Asia. Thank you for having me.
Nice, thanks Felix. You want to go next?
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for having us. My name is Felix. I'm with the Korean-German Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and we're part of a global network of chambers abroad. And here in Korea, we have been for 41 years, where we try to connect or bridge German and Korean stakeholders of the Korean-German business community. We represent German business interests here, but also we try to support German companies entering here or expanding in the Korean market by connecting them to Korean partners or better understand the market to set up shop here.
Nice, awesome, thank you guys. So as you can hear, we have here some really great experts in the field. And with that, I would already jump to our first kind of topic or first question. And it's very much around how the ecosystem in Germany developed, because maybe some of you don't know, but there are some similarities between Korea and Germany when it comes to how companies developed, because we used to be very focused on well, big corporates, especially automotive. And the first question to Mabel would be very much about how did we manage to grow the startup ecosystem in Germany, as it's now one of the biggest in Europe?
Yeah.
What's your take on it?
I think there are a couple of reasons. So in Germany, there are a lot of universities that's focused on technology, for example, like the TUM, and then you have LMU and AWTH Aachen, right? So a lot of students, the PhD students that graduate from these universities, and then very soon after spin off their own startups. Also, so a bit about myself. So before I joined German Accelerator or German Entrepreneurship Asia, I used to work for a German large company, industrial gas company called Linde. And my last role there, I was with the corporate digitalization department, and that was, I think, in 2017. And at that time already, German corporates are starting the digital transformation journey. The company hired someone from Google to be the chief digitalization officer who was at that time my boss, right? So a lot of activities, we were also corporate partner of Plug and Play and so on. Apart from that company, also Infineon and other companies like BMW and so on, I think started that, working with startups, trying to also develop new technologies in collaboration with tech startups to help to make their operations more efficient. And I think through that also offered opportunities for German startups to also scale their solution in collaboration with the large corporates. And of course, government support is also one of the, I guess, main factor in the whole equation. But I think that's kind of how that got started, just awareness and also push from the corporates, also government side.
Nice. Felix, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, maybe one thing noting about generally startup setup in Germany is, well, I guess it reflects a bit how the overall setup in Germany is, which is a bit different from Korea. So Germany is a very federalistic, decentralized country. So that means that you have different areas, different clusters, which are more specialized on specific industries. So for example, in the south, you have a lot of industrial related activities. That's where you have most of the car manufacturers, the machinery, also medical devices and so on. And well, naturally, you would also have startup clusters or these so-called digi hubs all around the country that have more, I would say, focus areas. So I think that's a bit different. Of course, here in Korea, we also have different industry focus areas. But I would assume that most companies are still focusing around Seoul. So most companies have to have an office in Seoul, sometimes it feels like.
Yeah, exactly. I like also what you mentioned just about the Digi Hubs. I mean, in Germany, there's just a lot of stuff developing also regarding accelerators and so on and so forth. And one thing, we have actually Mabel here who basically works with German entrepreneurship and Accelerator. And one question that I'm really, and also the audience, I guess, really curious about is, you're helping German companies to expand to other countries like Korea or Singapore. Tell us more about how you actually ensure that they become successful in their growth journey when they actually launch in another jurisdiction.
Yeah, so at German Accelerator, which is a program financed by the German Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action, we support startups to scale globally. And how that started was 10 years ago, we went to Silicon Valley, or the founder of German Accelerator went to Silicon Valley, and saw how vibrant, right, the startup ecosystem and the tech scene was. And also then, had the idea to do tech transfer, for German startups, then to grow and to scale in Silicon Valley. And then we went to the ministry and got them to sponsor the program. So in the last 10 years, we have been supporting startups to scale through our program. So we have a few different types of programs, some for early stage startups to get a better sense about what it takes to expand your business overseas to other countries. And then with the market discovery program, which we have now 3 German startups here with us today, part of the South Korea market discovery program. It's a short 1-month program, but helps them to get a better understanding about the South Korean market. Because a lot of German startups, I think, still see Asia as a continent, but as we know, right, so Asia is very, it's a big continent and very fragmented also. So the purpose of the program is to get them acquainted through mentorship, right? So at German Accelerator, globally, we have more than 500 mentors, about 40 in Korea, and these are usually industry experts, people who are very well connected also in the startup ecosystem, to help them to localize, figure out the product market fit, to build their go-to-market strategy for expansion. And the last program that we have is the market access program, which is about 5 to 6 months. And this program really helps startups to figure out everything, including pricing, product localization needs, what are the customers, for example, if they want to bring their technology to South Korean market and work with Korean customers, what are the needs and peculiarities, nuances, also considering the local culture, local market requirements, and how to get that going, right, with the expansion to South Korea. So I think we look at a couple of things. Of course, connection with the ecosystem, with investors, with corporates, one of them. But a lot of it is also mentoring and getting them prepared for the market.
Right. You mentioned already the localization aspect. So I think also, Felix, you probably have a lot to add here, because as soon as startups, you know, as soon as they become bigger and they become actually multinational businesses, I guess there's a lot of opportunity for you to help them as well, right? What's your angle there?
Well, first of all, we collaborate with German Entrepreneurship and other partners in the startup space to, you know, also see if we can utilize our network or connections through either the German-Korean business community or our global partners. And so when working with startups, or most of the customers or people we work with actually are SMEs, which are sometimes, in terms of the setup, not too different from startups. They all have more or less the same or similar strategy to when they want to go abroad. So that means that they have a good product, or in most cases an excellent product that is sometimes also a very niche market maybe, and they're successful in their home country, and then they want to expand and scale, go abroad. And but if you're in Germany, you don't really know how the Korean market works. It's very different, as Mabel pointed out. The other way around, it's the same. So when it comes to startups, we work together with the German Accelerator, but also we have worked with KITA, the Korean International Trade Association, and helped them to bring startups to Germany to explore through the Startup Germany tour to get a feeling for the German market. And I think it starts there. First of all, you have to focus on your product, your services, and then understand your target market. Is there a need, or is my product ready? Is the market ready for my product or services? And when that is sort of confirmed, most companies or startups then go the next steps and say, okay, let's enter the market. Most of them do that through local partners. And finding that local partner is also not that easy. I mean, how do you find that perfect distribution partner that knows the market, that has the network, all the distribution channels to help your product to be sold where you want it to be sold? So we try to connect that and support them basically throughout that journey.
Yeah, maybe if I can add to that. So I think one very interesting observation, right, largely about startups and corporates, like traditional companies probably see competitors as competitors, right? So they don't tend to want to, you know, partner with a competitor. But with the startup ecosystem, it's really different, right? So working with another startup could actually build, form a good partnership. For example, for us also, German startups, not just with the support of the chamber to meet with Korean companies, but also we try to connect them with Korean startups. And there, you know, they can support each other with also market entry.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I mean, you guys both have for sure already your fair share of experience of bringing the companies into Korea. I mean, Mabel, you mentioned already with German entrepreneurship, you have 500 mentors, 40 of them in Korea. Felix, you've worked with with German companies as well. But have you guys noticed somewhat of you could say a trend? Like, are more companies from Germany coming over now to Korea? And if so, why would they do that?
Well, I mean, if we look at the fact that, if we look at the trade statistics, for instance, trade between Germany and Korea has increased quite a lot. So that gives you a bit of a sense that, okay, seems like products going back and forth or doing business in between those two countries works well or is increasing. So that, I think those statistics are quite impressive. We have, I think, over 30 billion euros trade volume, and for German companies, Korea is actually the second largest export market right after China. So that's, I think, sort of underlines a bit the value of the Korean market for German companies, and also what makes Korea maybe even more interesting for German companies is that when a German SME or company works here together with one of the bigger Korean companies, and that works successfully, it's quite likely that that Korean company will also collaborate with that German company in other markets. So basically, Korea can be sort of a launch pad for many companies towards other markets.
Mabel, you have anything to add regarding the growth?
Yeah, I think Korea is a really interesting market. I don't know if I should say this, but in Germany, when I was traveling on the trains, it was impossible to do a Zoom call or phone call because the connection is so bad. But in Korea, it's so well connected, right? Like in Seoul, I pretty much get 5G connection all the time. And I think that's really attractive for German startups, especially if their solution requires a strong and stable connection. Apart from that, I think also in Korea, people are very tech-savvy population here, very quick adopters of technology, and I see that as a very big plus point for German technologies, German startups coming to this place.
Yeah, and maybe to add on to that, if we take a look at the German and the Korean business mindset, I think it's quite compatible. So you mentioned everything is very fast in Korea. I've been in Korea for 7 years, and it took me 3 years to learn the word chonchonhi. Before that, arriving at the airport, bali bali, right? Everything is fast. And so I think that is quite an asset, that Koreans are not just fast, they have like the can-do attitude and things somehow work out, whereas Germans maybe are more, risk, quality control, have a thought-out process, and in the end, make sure that everything is 110% okay. And I think if you combine that two, it can be lead to quite some good outcomes.
And this could be also a great entry gate for Korean companies, right? If Korean companies want to expand to Europe, maybe Germany would be then a great fit, right? So then my question would be, why do you think should these Korean companies come to Germany, other than, well, the similarities in the mindset?
I think for the Korean startups, well, first of all, it depends on which industry, what their solution is. So we're also generalizing here, right? So in Germany, there are a lot of large corporates, and especially in the space of manufacturing, Industry 4.0, I think they are still, I would say, very advanced with the technology, also very aware about tech solutions. So if a Korean startup is in this space and keen to explore the market, I think yeah, Germany would be definitely a good gate. Also, good gateway to Europe, right? So there are a lot of similarities between Korea and Germany, also in terms of legal structure. It's very well regulated. And also, I think with data privacy, I mean, there are challenges always, but I think Korean startups, I guess if you can set up your business here in Korea, you probably should be able to do so in many countries in the world. And the other thing is, I think in Germany, there are a lot of, yeah, as I said, also Mittelstand, maybe also Felix would talk a little bit more about this. So the Mittelstands are the small to medium enterprise, but actually they are not that small, right? So they are, how should I say, global leaders in the technology that they provide. So if there is a collaboration with not just a German corporate, like a large corporate, but also these Mittelstand, then there's also an opportunity to scale your solution to the rest of the world with these smaller companies.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I have to just, applaud that. Go with the Mittelstand, go with the hidden champions to partner up. Maybe to add on to that, there's already quite a few good programs established between Korea and Germany or globally. I mean, Mabel is here, so you should take advantage of that. But also the corporate-backed accelerators like Startup Autobahn, which has been to Korea, I think, a couple of times, and has facilitated basically exchange between Korean startups and the German startup ecosystem. And I think there are quite a few good examples on how companies could utilize these connections to not just stick to their home turf, to home market, but also explore European markets and so forth.
Nice, and I think also we have Mabel here. Maybe you can already tell the audience what you're doing with Korean startups.
Yeah. So last year we partnered with Shinhan Square Bridge. to bring 5 Korean startups to Germany. So supported them with figuring out their go-to-market strategy, connecting them with also people in the ecosystem. And this year we have a program with Ulsan Technopark. So we are a German company, but we are also very present in Southeast Asia. For example, in Singapore, we have more than 100 mentors, and in the US as well, we have offices in Silicon Valley, New York, and Boston. And what we are trying to do also for South Korean startups is actually exactly the same thing what we're trying to help the German startups, right? But just the other direction. So yeah, if at the moment right now we don't have a open program like for application, but I think in 2023 we might have some opportunities. So if any of the Korean startups are interested, I can keep them informed. Sure.
So if any Korean startup here, talk to Mabel after the panel. Since we already know now that there are certain programs established, I think another very important one is actually if you want to, or if a Korean company wants to come to Germany, what's very much the legal setup and what is the support that you can receive from the government. And I think, Felix, you would be a great person to answer this question. So what do you think, like beyond these accelerator programs, what is there from the German government or from other large corporates that can help Korean companies come to Germany and scale?
Well, besides the ones that we have already talked about, I guess you would have to check which kind of industrial area, focus area, or service areas you want to focus on to see which kind of platform matches your product, your service, or your business, basically. But then, again, we have a relatively decentralized setup. Again, in Germany, we have on the state level certain investment promotion agencies. I mean, you have that in Korea too, but I think in Germany they are a bit more flexible or more autonomous in what they can actually do. So on the, let's say, state level, you have those. And then on the regional or local level, you have chambers of commerce. So we're the German Foreign Chamber of Commerce, and there's only one of us in Korea. But in Germany, to whichever city or town you come, they have a local chamber that supports the local companies there. So oftentimes they would also have consulting services and free advice for SMEs, for startups, or whoever who is sort of interested in doing business in that field. So I think there's a lot of these programs that you should carefully take a look at. And then, of course, on the national level, there are some institutions that support to Germany Trade and Invest, which, by the way, have also an office here in Korea. They also help you get a better overview or understanding of, let's say, the German healthcare market or the automotive industry and so on. So that helps a lot that you can draw from that info.
I think in addition, in the hubs, right? So as Felix also mentioned, it's very Germany is very decentralized, right? So for example, insurance. If you are an insurtech company, there is also insurtech hub Munich. Which is a program that is open to international startups interested to work with like Munich Re or these German insurance, large insurance companies in Munich. And I think there are several other programs like this in the other parts of Germany, depending on which industry. And then the other thing we do also in the company is this event that we run annually, I think 3 times. And I need to think about the name of the program, but it's an event where we connect startups, early stage startups with investors. So that's held twice in person in Germany. That's open only for German startups. But the 3rd time in October, we held it. It's open for international startups to apply. So basically, startups apply, and then there is a selection process. If you are selected to be the top 50 startups, then you get a chance to pitch to 100 or 200 investors. And investors actually have to pay to attend the event. And that's how we make sure that they are like really serious about looking for startups for investment.
Nice. And I like what you mentioned, that you mentioned also the corporate programs with Munich Re. I went through one of these myself, and I can tell that they are really diverse programs. They recruit companies from all around the world that basically go through the accelerator. really good ones, can highly recommend them. And they're across all industries for sure. We talked now a lot about what's good about Germany and why companies, Korean companies should expand there, and that there are a lot of similarities. But I would also like to maybe go a little bit to the other side. Like you both guys, both of you have good experience. So what do you think are like the challenges that Korean companies would face on their journey to expand to Germany?
I think in terms of challenges, I would say regardless of which market you go to, there are always the common challenges, right? So localization, knowing the culture, getting connected with the people, regulatory framework, right? Data regulations, for example, in Germany is very strict, the GDPR, right? You have to get to know also the market, for example, in Germany. I guess also the people, right? So Germans are probably not so comfortable with sharing their personal data, you know, having cameras, CCTVs everywhere, like in many countries in Asia, right? And so the mentality and the mindset, I think it's important to understand the local market and then figure out like what's the best way to enter the market, what kind of companies, small to medium enterprise, or should you be looking at, I don't know, direct to consumers, all these kind of things should be considered. But I wouldn't say, I don't know if Felix, what you think about this, but I wouldn't say there's like specific challenges. But one thing, as we already touched on, Germany is very decentralized, right? So it's not like if you want to expand to to Korea, you come to Seoul, right? But in Germany, you kind of have to know where you should be. Like in Frankfurt, for example, is a fintech hub, and then there are so many different ones, right? I think having a good understanding, speak to someone from the market who knows the market, I think that will help you get ahead a bit faster. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest challenge is the business is more or less business is business, yeah. But doing business is something that people do with each other, so therefore they have to understand each other and be somewhat on the same page. And that requires a bit of, raising awareness or, understanding that. I mean, of course, you don't have to understand the other culture in total, but you have to find some sort of common ground. And I think this initial connection sometimes seems to be a bit of a challenge. I mean, if you go to a networking event, I would say there are two extremes that I've observed. Sometimes people who are very shy, who tend to not to engage with the other person because he's older or more senior or CEO from a big company or so. Whereas currently we have another Korean company that is interested in working with a German company who's very interested in working with. They keep calling them and push, or a bit too pushy, I think. So sometimes you also have to acknowledge that Germans are not so fast. Sometimes they just need a bit of time, right? And I think to sort of try to balance that out, and that is, I think, important.
Nice. Thank you very much, guys. I see that we are almost out of time, so I also wanted to give the audience a chance. If you have any question, then right now is a good chance to raise them, as we have two experts sitting here. And one small remark: if you have a question, you can actually also get a 10,000 Korean won voucher. Yeah. So yeah, if you have any questions, you can even get a small reward for it. Just raise your hand. We have Martha. Is she getting a microphone?
I'm getting the 10,000 won voucher. Just kidding. I guess I have a question for both of you. Do you have a good success story, a success case of a Korean startup that expanded into Germany, or if not Korean, an Asian startup that successfully established its presence in Germany and went on to achieve hopefully great things?
Yeah, actually we do. So I think it was 2-3 years ago where we had our startup Germany tour, where we collaborated with Kita and took a couple of Korean startups to Germany. And so, for instance, that also focused on the automotive industry. And one of these companies then further connected with one of the German OEMs and came back to Korea, where they have their office. And fortunately, that German OEM has also an office here with R&D, which has strong ties to the startup initiative. So they could keep that conversation going and ended up to then establish their office in Germany to be close to that German OEM.
So for us, we started the program for Korean startups last year. I would say the Korean startups that joined the program was still very early stage. So not so much for the Korean startups, but for the Singaporean startups, yes, we do have some success story. Maybe I'll just mention one of them in the medical device. Basically they have a medical device, and we supported them with getting MOU and also a project going with Charité, which is one of the largest hospital in Germany. I would also say if you are considering expansion to another market, I think your product should be ready, right? And then you can I guess also quite quickly pivot or incorporate any changes. If you're too early stage, then it's also difficult, to expand to any market. I think regardless of whether it's Germany or any other market.
I hope that answered the question. I see the time is up, but maybe before we leave the stage and before we close the session, each of you can maybe share one thought, one big tip that you would give Korean startups on their way if they consider expanding. One quick line. So
one thing about Korean startup that I observe, very keen on getting investment. The first thing they come to Singapore is, connect me with investors. But I think if you're an investor yourself, you may not want to invest in a startup that has not proven any traction or any business within that local market. So I think the focus should be having a good understanding of the market, understand how to enter the market and get the business going. And once that happens, investors will come, right? So I think that is one main thing that I observe, which I think is probably important. It's a little bit about the mindset of Korean startups.
Felix?
Well, we're out of time, so if you have questions or if you want anything, just come to us. We're based here in Seoul. If we can't help you, we can at least point you into the direction of other people who may be able to help you. So I guess I'll leave it there.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.